Right, I've come to Bolsover Castle today because it sits high up on an hill, so I've got a great advantage point there to continue with the zoom test with the Nikon Coolpix P1100. And just behind me sits a wall walk, and that's going to get me on that great elevation to continue with those zooming tests. So I'm just making my way over to the wall walk, and I'm going to be locating just over there, keeping that sun well behind the camera lens. And as you can see, this is a great elevation to continue with those zoom tests with the P1100. And now I'll just get the tripod out and set it up. So I've just recently bought this tripod from Newer, or Newer, however you say it. Spelled N-E-E-W-E-R. People say it as Newer. I've heard people say that as Newer, Newer, and Newer. So I'll just go with Newer. Or shall I go with Newer? Still deciding. So I'm just going to get the tripod to the height I need it at. It's all quick release as well, so there's not much setting up. So now I'm going to get the P1100 set up on the tripod. Again, this is just a quick release mount. Just go straight on there, and that's nice and secure. So this is the tripod set up here. So now we're ready to start optically zooming, and then we'll use that digital zoom on top. So just want to note, when you're doing any kind of super zoom test like this, especially with these heavier zoom cameras, always get a good sturdy tripod like I have here, because any little micro movements you do at this end, when that zoom's protruding all the way out at 125 times optical, and especially when using that digital zoom on top, it's as though you're really shaking the camera around. And also, if you've got some strong wind gusts there, even on a tripod, when that lens is maxed out at 125 and then that digital on top, it just becomes unusable. So always make sure the sun's behind the lens, you've got hardly any wind, you've got a tripod and a remote control. We're not asking for much there, are we? Right, so now let's find some subjects to zoom in on with the Nikon Coolpix P1100. Here we go. And right on the horizon, if you can make that out, we've got a white blob. And that's a tower block, a block of flats. Let's see if we can get all the way into that. Not much wind today, so it's going to be great. And now we're at 125 times optical. Let me punch in with that 4 times digital on top. That's 125, and now I'll pull back to where I'm stood, and I think that's around 15 miles away. If I'm wrong, I'll try and find that when I'm editing and measure it on Google Maps, so give or take a few meters there. We'll have a rough guidance to see how far that is. And now we've got some men at work there on top of this warehouse, and that just sits just over a mile away. That's at 125 times optical. Now I'll use that digital zoom on top. You see there's a bit of heat wave there on top there, you've got to be careful for that as well. And now I'll pull back to where I'm stood at the castle. So that's just over 1 mile away. That's great visibility with that sun behind me today. So now you can see a couple of machines, 125 times optically zoom there. Let's use that 4 times digital on top. Now I pull back to 125, and that's around 2 miles away. So now let me pull back to where I'm stood on the castle wall again. So you've got to be careful with that temperature when zooming in, because as you've seen on that yellow machine there, we start to get a bit of heat wave. Now bear with me on this shot. I'm going to try and get this plane. I ain't got a clue how far this is away. But bear with me, the footage could get shaky. That's a funny looking plane. So it did well there. focusing really worked there, because that is very far away. I'll just put it in context with the land there. You can just make out the white stripe at the back. So that was really good zooming. Clearly read that, and that's around 2 miles away. It's very difficult to follow a subject at that distance, just like the aeroplanes. But I didn't do too bad there, I don't think. And now we've got a grit salt bin over there. I'd say that's around 130 metres away. Now let's use that digital zoom on top. Back to the optical. And now back to me on the castle wall at 24mm. So you can clearly see the lettering DCC on that, but with my naked eye I cannot see that. Again, around 130 metres away. And now just on this road over here we've got 2 cars. Again, that's in line with those warehouses, so that's around a mile away as well. That's at 125 times optical. Now I'll use that digital zoom on top. I'll get back to the 125. And now I'll fully retract back to me on the castle wall at 24mm. Again, that's around a mile away. And now I'm zoomed in on this chimney stack, and it's about just over a quarter of a mile away. So let me use that digital zoom on top. Yeah, we certainly won't be doing any inspections with this digital zoom. And now I'm back at 125 times optical. And let me pull back to where I'm stood on the castle wall again. So that's around a quarter of a mile away. So there's a pub just at the bottom of the hill there, just centre frame. I'm going to start zooming into it, and that's just, I'd say, just over a quarter of a mile away. But what's the pub called? Let's have a look. Now let's use that digital zoom. There we go. I'll pull back to that 125. And now pull back to me on the castle wall again. So that's around a quarter of a mile away. I wonder if we can tell the time, which I think's around 4 or 5 miles away. There's a church just coming into shot soon. There you can make out that both hands are facing to the top. I'm cheating because I can see it's 5 to 12. But I think you can see the hands pointing at the top there. So that's got to be around 4 or 5 miles away. So we can tell the time, this time, 4 or 5 miles away. So that's pretty good going. As you can see, that's quite a distance away. Centre frame, there's a horse in a field. It's a black and white horse. You can see it from here. You've got really good eyesight. And now start zooming in, and you should be able to see it appear soon. And this is around 1.5 miles away. I'll just get to 125 and then I'll stop. Now let's use that digital on top. There's your 125 times optical, and again that's around 1.5 miles away. So I'm finished filming now with the P1100 at Bolsover Castle. And now that you've got a real good insight of the zooming capabilities with the P1100, I would highly recommend you don't use that digital zoom on top, and be careful how far you zoom in, because his furthest location today was that tower block in Sheffield, around 15 miles away. And although we can get right into the windows, that digital zoom falls to pieces after a certain distance there. And be really careful how far you do zoom in, because when you're looking at 10 miles plus, it just looks digital, to be fair. But anything close to half a mile or just 3/4 of a mile, and the picture holds together there. So as always, do stay tuned to the channel. There's going to be plenty more videos on the horizon. But for now, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and bye for now.